Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to just do kind of a short video on some quick troubleshooting tips for common issues that you may have with your RV. So the first tip is going to be on your inverter circuits, particularly the outlets. So let's say you're watching the TV or you have something plugged into one of the inverter circuits and it quits working. But all the other things connected to the 12 volts power seem to be working, such as the lights, possibly a refrigerator, anything else that's not plugged into an inverter circuit that runs off to 12 volts that's still working, like the water pump, things of that nature. Slides, they all run off of the 12 volts. So if those are working, more than likely it's not an inverter issue itself, it's one of the actual inverter sockets. So what you'd want to do, what I recommend doing, is going to the inverter circuit that is closest to the inverter itself and checking that outlet. It may be defective, or in my case, the wiring on the back came loose because they're not like a household wiring. These are actually pressed into the back of the outlet. They're not your normal household outlets again. So you would have to end up either getting a special outlet, or it could be the wiring came loose on the back. The second issue, also an electrical issue or power issue, is if the shore power is not charging your batteries and your 12 volt circuits die out. You may still have the AC works and the microwave may work. Those things that will run off the actual shore power, not the batteries. More than likely, unfortunately, it's going to be the converter, and that is located near your fuse panel. On this particular unit, it is underneath the refrigerator. This is the location of my fuse panel underneath the refrigerator. That's the fuse panel with the circuit breakers. This actually comes off with a Phillips head screwdriver. You have to pull that off, and the converter's in the back. If you're not used to working on electrical equipment, I don't recommend doing that. You do have to disconnect the batteries or the power to replace that. There is a fuse inside of there that I've heard that can also blow. So that is tip number 2. All right, tip number 3, or 3, however you like to hold them up, is if your city water connection is filling your freshwater tank. I've had this happen, and it wasn't what everybody says it was. Normally, yes, it is the water pump. There's a valve, a check valve in there that sticks. In this particular unit, the water pump is located under the bathroom sink. It does have a little note on there right there. However, if your unit has a shower miser, which unbeknownst to me I actually had, I never really paid attention to this. I just thought it was part of the watering, and the salesman told me that I actually didn't have that feature on here, so I didn't pay attention to it. However, the problem was this valve was moved down to this position, and that bypasses the city water, and just basically the shower miser goes to your freshwater tank from the drain. And I don't know why people would want to use shower water to go back into the freshwater. I guess if you're boondocking for a long time and you're not drinking that water, and then you get to save water, of course. But again, somebody had rented this unit, and I didn't realize they moved this down, and the rentals after that kept filling up my freshwater tank. And the shower miser was the reason why. So you may have, maybe you have kids or something, and they're in the shower and they messing with handles, and then all of a sudden you notice your overflow for your freshwater tank is going off. I would check that first before trying to dig into the water pump. And finally, tip number 4, and that's going to be if your refrigerator stops cooling. This is a 12 volt refrigerator, and it stopped cooling in the refrigerator part, but the freezer was working fine. One thing you can do is, this valve is not actually a temperature valve, it allows more airflow to come down to the refrigerator. So on this particular model, again, that's where the knob is. It may be in other locations, but should be pretty similar because the air is going to flow in the same direction. So minimum means the valve in there is, or the flapper is fully open, and allowing less freezer cooling. The second thing you can check is if you push on this back wall, because that's where the evaporator and the fan are at. If that feels crunchy, then there's probably ice built up there, and either the fan, which is here, and you can hear that running, but you can check for the fan running. But if it's frozen up behind there, and the fan is working, then you have some other, probably a defrost problem. And depending on your unit or model number, it, you know, if you're able to find and locate those parts, but you would have to take off the rear panel and to check that. Also, if you notice when you may not have the refrigerator on, if you're getting a lot of water on the floor, then you definitely have an icing problem in the freezer area. So that is my 4 quick troubleshooting tips for common RV problems. If you liked the video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe and share. And thank you for watching. Have a great day.